Hello, thank you for stopping by again at my channel. Today I would like to demonstrate a little trick I use to fix the thread which is close to end, which I don't want to use anymore, without turning my work upside down. This method is not the one I have invented. I saw it somewhere on the Russian cross-stitch YouTube, so I decided to share it on my channel because I think it's just a very interesting and easy to do way, especially if you work on the stand, like a lap stand or a floor stand, and you don't want to turn your project up and down over and over again. Little thing is that this method will probably work the best on full cover projects, like the one I'm having now. Sorry, it's out of focus. So how does it work? I will just explain you a little bit on some piece of paper I have here, and then I will try to demonstrate you on in real life project. So as you can see, I have this cross that I want to finish, this with turquoise color, and this is a tiniest, that's not too much thread left, so I'm deciding that I don't want to use this thread anymore. I will cut it off. And what I'm gonna do to cut it off, and to cut it off without turning, to fix it without turning the work upside down. So for now I will leave the needle here for me to finish a bit later, and I will demonstrate you my supplementary material. I was trying to draw a piece of Aida fabric on the paper. I will decrease my zoom a bit because now it doesn't make any sense. So, as you can see, this whole huge square which I have drawn, so basically from this part to this part, this one, all I have just marked, corresponds to one tiny little square on Aida canvas. I will again bring in my zoom for you to see. So what I have just shown on the paper is in essence this square. One of those squares, there are many of them, and this is it. If you look very carefully on Aida, unfortunately my zoom will not let me bring it so close. But just have a look at the Aida canvas you have at home and you will see that I am right. All those threads going crisscrossed on the bottom and on front are actually consisting of 3 individual threads. Maybe here you can see it a bit better. 1, 2, 3. And the ones under it going perpendicular are also 1, 2, 3. So in essence, inside of this big mesh of threads, you can also see a smaller mesh of threads. This is the one I tried to paint it, to sketch on my piece of paper. So now we will be looking specifically at one of those squares on Aida. Just bear this in mind, that I'm talking specifically about this tiniest square. So let's go back to my piece of paper. Again, zoom out. Today I'm working as a zoomer. So let's see. So as I have just shown you, here it is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is one small square, and then it goes on the next square. Here it went under, there it went up, and so on. That's how the weaving of the fabric works. That's very basic idea. So what we are interested in now are those tiny, invisible, pretty much holes that can be found between threads of inside of this one small square. So if you look again, You probably will not see it with your naked eye unless you have a microscope or binocular, but if you will try to use your needle, you will definitely find those holes. So, how this method of fixing the thread works in real life. First, a quick demonstration on paper. So, for example, I have a green piece of thread, which is now represented by the highlighter. Let's imagine it is thread that is coming. So, I decided that I'm fixing my green thread inside of this tiny Aida square. I will go and I will stick my needle. It is not necessary to have to be in this specific order, this is just the idea. So follow me, but you don't necessarily have to stick exactly in the same thread, in the same holes as I do. So I will go from the back of the project, from the back, and I will let my thread out here in this crisscrosses of the individual threads between them on one little Aida square. I'm going out here, then I will put it all the way. I will just move it to the next hole, put it inside, and from the back side I will go out again and I will finish it here. This is where, on this spot, I'm gonna use my scissors to cut it off. It may not make much sense at the moment, but promise it will make sense once I will demonstrate. So once again, what was the idea? We were going from here to here and from there to here. So in essence, this is the fixing of the thread demonstrated on a piece of paper. We fix it between those tiny holes inside of this tiny square, and it's pretty impossible to drag it out after that. It will be very sturdy fix, and you don't need to make any knots, and you don't need to fix it under the threads on the back, and so on. So one more time, between tiny holes, from one to other, from the back to the front again. So we always end up, we coming from the bottom, from the back, and we always end up with threads sticking out at the front, because this is where we're going to cut it. Now you may say, okay, but here is a little bump. Why? What are we going to do with it? It's going to be sticking out. Yes, it will be sticking out for a while. As I have mentioned, this method works the best on full coverage project. So eventually, this place, because we are fixing the thread on the empty square, this place will be covered by a large square, large cross later in our project. I will come to that spot and I will just stitch appropriate color, some other color, not necessarily green, it just can be some color that will be required there by the pattern. And I will cover this little bump because it is really tiny, it's impossible to see, and it will not be seen on the surface at all. I hope I'm explaining myself clear enough. So now it's time to demonstrate. Let's go back to canvas and again zoom in. So here we are. We're back, zoomed in. Let me try to demonstrate you that my placement now is not very comfy, but I'll still try to do my best. So as you can see, I have finished my thread, and here is the place I decide, okay, I don't want to use the thread anymore, it's too short, I'm not gonna use it anytime soon, so I can finish it. So I will try to fix it somewhere below. I don't have any specific preference, just step couple crosses away. You can do it in any place you like. For example, I'm doing it here. And as you can see, I'm sticking my needle in between the threads, not in the larger holes, but in the smaller holes, in between the threads. You just push it a bit harder and you will get it. It's not a big deal. So here it is. I took it out. As you can see, it's coming approximately in the very center. So now I have to be a bit careful because I don't want to go back to the same hole I just went through. So I move it just slightly so for me to get into the next possible place. Excuse me. I'm not a left-handed, so stitching left-handed is a bit complicated, but I have my right on the back of canvas, so I don't want to move it. So I found some hole next to it. Not the same hole, next one. And here, as you can see, there is a little dot appeared. This dot is exactly what I've drawn here, what I've drawn here. This is what we have just done. This is the space. This is this thing. Now we're going again. So we went inside, and now we're going outside, and we will cut the thread in this very spot. One more time. Again, going back. Looking for my needle. Found it. And now I'm sticking it again. Not the same hole I just used, somewhere nearby. Here it is. Drop the needle, okay. And as you can see, this is this little thing, and this is what is corresponding to exit of the thread from this place. So we have done this, and now we took it out. And here it is here. This is the place where we're supposed to cut it off. And now I just easily cutting it off with my scissors as close as possible. Ta-da! So as you can see here, I have already fixed my threads all around. So they look like tiny bumps. But as you can imagine, when I go over with a normal cross, like this one or this one, it will be large enough to cover those bumps, and you will not see them again, ever. You will just be covering them over and over, and this is the way which you can use to fix your threads, and you don't have to turn your project at all. As you have noticed, I didn't turn my project once. Of course, it's a bit complicated if you don't work with both hands, but I do. So if you work with both hands on full cover project and you're using some kind of stand or some kind of holder or clamp, this is very good and very effective way to fix the thread on the face of the project. I hope it was easy enough, and I hope you will be able to use this method in future. Please ask me questions and comments if you have any on this method. I finished my video on fixing the thread on the surface, on the face of the project, but I have decided also to show covering those two bumps which we have created, fixing the thread, to demonstrate that it will not be visible once you put a thread on top of those fixing spot. So now I'm stitching with this dark blue color, and one of those crosses will be over this spot where I fixed my previous thread. So I have fixed some thread probably from this part in this very spot. As I told before, it doesn't really matter where you fix it, because this is the full coverage project and all those places will be covered eventually. So this is where I end up having some green thread fixed in this very place. So I'm gonna take my dark blue thread and I will show how it goes over the top of the fixed spot. So this is, I'm making half stitch, half cross, 1, and 2. And as you can see, there is no trace left. You will not be able to tell that there is something under this cross. Since we are only using the very middle of small square, all those edges we don't use. So since it is in the very middle, it is perfectly covered by the cross which you put on top of it. So here is the result, and thank you again.